Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. This is episode 137 on freeing yourself from anxiety with Tamar Chansky. My name is Known Wells. I am the host of this show. I'm the creator of You, Me, Empathy. I'm also the founder of the Feely Human Collective, a new space for humans to come and grow your capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. You can learn more about that and take a free workshop and write for Feely Human at feelyhuman.co. That's feelyhuman.co. Check that out. This is a wonderful episode. Tamar and I talk about freeing yourself from anxiety. Tamar is a PhD. She is very smart. She's a smarty pants. And we had a wonderful conversation around how we as humans hold on to anxiety, how we can free ourselves from anxiety in kids, anxiety in adults, anxiety in achievement and cultural pressure, so much anxiety. We can all relate to this. This is a tremendously universal podcast, this episode, because anxiety is something that we all have had, some of us in a clinical way, but some of us in just a human way. Anxiety is a thing that's deeply universal. So this is a tremendous episode. I really love this episode. So much to take away in this episode, including Tamar talks a lot about, toward the end, some anxiety relief tools that we can take on for ourselves. We can teach our kids. One of which is called the Possibility Panel. I just really love this. It's all about choosing your own personal board of directors. And these could be people in your life. These can be people alive or dead, fictional or real, people we know personally or not, just 4 people who will help you when you're losing perspective. And I thought it would be fun to do a little activity together on this. And each of us choose our own possibility panel, choosing our own personal board of directors to help us when we're losing perspective. And share either in the comments of this post, which is at feelyhuman.co, or yumiempathy.com. You can get there that way. Or even better, on Instagram. I will be sharing my personal board of directors today on Instagram at feelyhuman. At Yumi Empathy, rather, is where you'll find that, at Yumi Empathy. And I'd love to see yours, so make sure to share yours. There are instructions for how to do this, and I'll write them in the show notes, as well as in the Instagram post at Yumi Empathy. But I'd love to hear your personal board of directors. I think it would be a fun thing to do, and make sure to tag me so I can reshare them and share them in the stories, and tag at Tamar Chansky PhD as well. And I'll make sure to tag Tamar in the post on Instagram and in the show notes, etc. Anyways, that will be fun. I'd love to see your possibility panel. Again, this is episode 137. It's great. It's all about anxiety. Before we get to it, though, I want to remind you all that Yumi Empathy's at 98 ratings on Apple Podcasts. We're almost to 100. I think we can do it. I think we can get to 100. I'm going to read a new review here from Melanie Eugene. The title is Grateful for This Podcast. Melanie says, quote, I love listening in on the conversations you have with your guests. Each episode helps me get out of my head and into my heart more, and you help me have grace with myself and my mental health struggles. I don't feel so alone. Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for listening. Thank you for that wonderful review, and I'm so grateful that the show helps you, and that helps you feel a little less alone. That's really what it's all about for me, is feeling less alone, feeling safe in our feelings, because they're human and they're feely human. So thank you, Melanie. If you also want to leave a review, I would be so grateful. Recently, I also shared I created a page on feelyhuman.com. If you go to feelyhuman.co/support, that's feelyhuman.co/support. I list 10 ways you can support me and the podcast and Feely Human and all of it. Some financial, most not. But if you want to go there, I'll link that in the show notes and remind you in the Instagram post for this episode. Just ways to support. If you want. No pressure. I love you. Thank you for being a part of this this community, this lovely podcast that I love so much. And thank you for listening. And I'm blathering on. So let's get to the episode with Tamar Chansky on freeing yourself from anxiety. Enjoy. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm the opposite of a worrywart because I'm here with psychologist, author, and anxiety specialist, Tamar Chansky. Hello, Tamar.
Hi, Noan. So good to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. We were just talking off air that this has been a long time coming, and I'm so grateful to finally connect.
Oh, me too. And time is, it's very strange, especially now, right? A few weeks ago seems like a lifetime ago. So, yeah, I think we're all kind of experiencing that.
That is so true. And the context with which Tamar is talking about, listeners, is we're recording in the time of coronavirus. And this is week 3 of stay home for me. And I am not yet peeing in jars, but who knows? I may get there. But it's definitely a tense, anxious time. And I do want to talk about that for sure with you today. But we always kick off the show tomorrow with just a emotional check-in. How are you feeling?
Well, it's a mixed picture, Noan. Isn't it often a mixed picture?
Yep.
I bought this new piece of technology recently, and I feel like technology is just always a learning curve for me. And in the paperwork for this little adapter, there were 2 pictures, and one said happy, and it had a smiling face. And then if you flip over that piece of paper, on the back it said unhappy, and it had like a cloud, whatever. And I kept thinking and, obsessively photographing those two pictures because it was really bothering me that those were the only two options.
Right.
Because the continuum of feeling is just so far reaching between those 2 points of happy and unhappy. So it's often a mixed picture. And I'm very happy to be talking with you and having the opportunity to be in this space with you and your listeners. And there's also just this kind of background intensity and not worrying for me right now, but just more like a worrying of, what do I need to be doing? What's going on in these times. So I think my body is kind of set for something to be happening. My soul just wants to be here right now and really diving into this conversation. So I'm kind of handling the two things that are in relation to each other within me now. How's that for a long-winded answer?
It wasn't long-winded. I would say it was quite elegant and beautiful. I love you pointing out the little device instructions and the happy and the sad, right? Obviously, and maybe this is getting better, and you can tell me, but like, yeah, there's certainly a lot of simplification of feelings, and it's like this binary lens we like to put on things, right? That's the thing our world does and our culture does. Is this good or bad, or this is the right way, this is the wrong way? But as as someone who's very educated in the world of anxiety and brains and all these things, it's much more complex. And my question to you actually is like, with that context, like, how are you personally, you mentioned sort of holding space for what's going to come, and holding space here now. Like, how are you anxiety wise with it? Because I know for me, it's a weird feeling, because I haven't experienced this before.
Absolutely. And I think that is no small point right there. That none of us, somebody was saying recently that they just didn't know how to handle what was going on. And I said, that's exactly how we handle it, to recognize that we're all, thrown into new variables, our day-to-day life looks so different. Many of us haven't left our houses for a couple of weeks and things like that. And so, for me, I'm a doer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my creed. And I really appreciate that about myself. And so this is a part of me. Again, I feel like it's so great to be talking with you, and hopefully, putting out some ideas that may be helpful to folks who are listening. And so the doing is very helpful to me too. And also I have to, I just go to those places sometimes where I feel like, I don't know what to do. And that's all part of the process. So I think when I talk about anxiety, my frame, I say, my goal is to help people change their relationship with anxiety. We think like, oh, we shouldn't be worrying, or we should be worrying, or what should we be doing? And it's such a dynamic process but if we remember, whatever the feeling is, that we are in charge in some way to decide, is this a moment I'm going to go down the rabbit hole, or here I am down the rabbit hole, how long do I want to be here? Do I want to be doing something else? So we have a relationship with our feelings to not maybe immediately kind of decide what we want to do, but I think that's part of how we function is to step into that place of realizing that we can narrate what's going on and make decisions that feel better for us or not.
Yeah. Have you always been a doer?
Completely.
As far back as you can remember?
As far back as I can remember. A doer and a dreamer. And it kind of, I think it works so far. It's been okay. But yeah, I think, my parents who very fortunate, they're both still with us. And, I come from a long line of doers. I'll put it that way. I used to joke that by 8 o'clock in the morning, they had done more than, what most people do in a day. So those were my role models. And
what kinds of things are they doing before 8 a.m.?
Exactly. I don't, they would have started a lot of cooking for the day. I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking, of having my bowl of Cheerios, and I'm awoken by the aroma of sauteed onions because they're making soup for the day. But hey, that worked for them. And I would say probably I have two grown children, and they would probably say that I have done the same thing to them, that, we're doing a lot, getting a lot done, always projects happening. But that's how one of the ways that I live. It's just, I wouldn't even say cope, because it's just part of who I am, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about, because as you know, there's such a culturally such a emphasis on doing and productivity and getting things done and checking boxes and things. Like, was there at any point at which it was fueled by that cultural pressure, or was it just this internal engine of, I like doing stuff?
I really feel that and I'm not sure, we could have another therapy session about this, Known, but I somehow, doing for the most part was really attached to meaning for me, which is a very, very fortunate thing. So, I talk with my friends, we talk about how we're not workaholics, we're purposeaholics.
Okay.
So that it was never about, kind of achieving a certain thing that I was, moving towards, which I really, what I have devoted a lot of my work life to is helping people to not have that dysfunctional pressure operating, just again, kind of like the worrying in the background, but really deciding what they want to do with, the gifts they have, the time, what is it that they want to do, and not just doing things for the sake of doing. And that's very much
finding meaning and what speaks to your heart in the stuff that you do.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe a hard proposition for this generation coming up, feeling like their value is the GPA that they have, or,
Sure,
where just sort of the credentialing of, I don't know if we want to go this way, Known, but I have, this is a soapbox I could definitely stand on.
Hey, we're going where we go.
We're going where we're going. Yeah, no, it's the whole, it sounds hyperbolic, or you think like, oh, she's got to be making up these examples of third graders talking about college that, that couldn't be. And yet that's who I'm sitting with in my office a lot, is kids who somehow this trickle down feeling of pressure that is about what counts in the future. And it's not anything about now. And there's an emptiness that happens out of that. That's, we can't overlook. So bringing kids, whether it's kids, I mean, we, as adults, we can feel that too, just kind of being on that, treadmill. And that's not going to sustain us. So sustainable progress, sustainable growth, that's all, that's going to be really good for us. If we're just kind of going for the sake of going, that's when burnout happens, and just not really, feeling good about the things you are accomplishing, unless someone else says that
right
to you, and then that's a whole ride.
Validation.
Yeah. Which we all, let's be realistic, right? Yeah. Is anyone immune to that? No. But to me, again, the same way that we were talking earlier about the relationship with anxiety, of course, you're going to have worry. But if, you recognize that you're in a relationship with it, you have some say in what happens. If you recognize you're in a relationship with, pressure, achievement, or whatever it is, that when you get those feelings of, gosh, what do I really have to show for whatever, whatever the kind of intrusive thoughts come into your mind, that you say, okay, I'm going down that path. Is that really what I want to be doing right now? Is that going to help me to focus, on the work that just I can do? And we each have that work.
So how, I do want to get back to the third grader thinking about college, because that is tremendously sad to me. But I'm curious, Tamar, how did your fascination, interest, passion, where did it start, and how did it start in as it pertains to going toward the direction of thinking about anxiety and worry and studying it and writing about it? Where did that start?
Yeah. So it's really a story of coincidences. And then, of course, everyone knows there are no coincidences. But I always had this sense, I even remember in high school thinking, that I wanted to help people, wanted to, had some vague idea of being a therapist, and found my way into a program in graduate school in psychology where the only opportunity to actually work with people in graduate school to start, working on therapy skills was in this one research assistantship, which was working with anxious kids. And so I went, I wanted to do that because I wanted to be, I didn't want to be doing research, and I wanted to be with people. And then I'll never forget this, the aha moment that was the right thing for me to be doing was I was working with this, she was probably a third grader, actually, around that age, this young girl, and she had social anxiety. And so, of course, with social anxiety, also, people pleasing comes with that. And so in the safety of my office with her, I was asking her questions, about what she was ready to work on. It was a behavior therapy program for anxiety. And she, I said, so I think, we could go out in the hallway to practice to, show yourself that you can ask questions and you can use your voice and nothing bad's going to happen. And so let's practice that. And she was all yes, 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 wanting to tell me what she thought I wanted to hear. And then it was kind of, I had my hand on the door for us to go do this exposure. And she said, I just have one question. And I said, oh, sure. What's your question? And she said, well, how do I ask somebody what time it is?
Mm.
And it was just this moment of recognition between us that this was the way she was telling me that what might have felt so obvious and easy to anybody else was a complete hard stop for her. And I can still feel that moment as you don't see the tears.
Yeah.
No, but just that revealing of oneself, I felt just when someone shows who they are, someone shows you who they are like that and wants your help, that I felt like that was just such a moment of truth for me, of knowing that I just wanted to be in those places with people where they could ask the most, on some level, obvious question,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be safe.
Yeah.
And, just like when we were talking before the call and your introduction, this is the space that you create with your listeners and your vision for the world that think about. So if that moment hadn't happened with that young person, I hope some other moment would have happened, soon after for her. But if that moment hadn't happened, she would be walking around feeling like everybody knows how life works. Everybody knows what to do except for me. I don't know how to do this, and so I can't talk to people. And what that path can look like then, it's just more and more self-doubt and isolation. And so, the good thing that happens and why I love what I do is, we can create these safe places and people can ask, just questions like that. And then we can practice. And that's really what I love about cognitive behavior therapy, is that you step in and nothing's obvious. You can practice anything. People, all day long, people are saying, I know this sounds so stupid to be talking about this. And I'm like, wait, no, this is, everybody has things that they understand like that. And everybody has things that are elusive to them, that are hard for them. And that's just, that's what we're working on.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's beautiful. And it both sort of breaks my heart and also is encouraging, right? It fills my heart at the same time as it's breaking, because it's someone who's asking for help in more ways than one, right? Which is a beautiful thing. And she clearly felt like you were a safe space, right? And that's amazing. And I think we need to be that for others, because there is, to your beautiful point, Tamar, there is so much about our own selves that we're not going to know unless we do work. And oftentimes that work is through other people, being mirrors for us, or other people giving us answers, or therapy, or just connection, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And since I don't know when this will air, but since we're talking about this time of the coronavirus and being in week 3, and we really need to help each other a lot with just not losing sight of ourselves. There's so much that we have to do now, and so many things that are different, and there's fear. And when we can connect with someone new, like in these moments, or someone who knows us well, I feel like that's part of our treatment, that it's not a luxury. Like, we need to try to do that because we connect with ourselves every day.
Yeah.
That's so important. It's so easy to just be, we're wired to not be having this wonderful conversation.
Right.
as a first priority.
Right.
We are wired to be running right now. That's what we're wired to do. So when people are feeling like, oh my gosh, yeah, I posted on Facebook earlier saying, what's the most commonly asked question in our household these days? It's, wait, what was I trying to do just now? Because we're all walking around trying to have our focus, but in our bodies, yeah, we're, when there is a sense of the unknown and uncertainty and fear, immediately we're ready to run. And so that's what we're wired to do. And so we have to intentionally we have another program that we're wired to do too, which is to connect and recover and, kind of recharge. But we won't go there automatically. That is a manual shift.
Yeah. I forgot who said it, but it was something along the lines of life is like one journey of knowing ourselves. And a lifelong journey, right? And I was thinking about this the other day because I'm developing a workshop for Feel Human, and it's all about empathy, and there's this one section I'm writing that's all about the importance of self-awareness when it comes to empathy, and I would use self-awareness as a tool for all of this that we're talking about, right? I think it is one of those things that I think can be so anxiety-inducing. It can be so stressful and scary because, like you said before, like we're uncovering things we don't know about ourselves. We're unearthing, childhood traumas that are impacting us in ways that are at the present moment a mystery, right? And I find the more that we focus on trying to understand ourselves and know ourselves, the easier it's gonna be, right? The easier, like because when we're in a scenario that maybe brings us a little anxiety, and I'm someone who has social anxiety myself, and I've gotten so, like I used to walk into a room and just be, like I felt like my face was on fire, like literally, like, and I would like sweat, and I would my skin would turn red. And it's only through like understanding who I am, and being okay with that and loving myself and all of those things that I've been able to improve that experience for myself.
I'm so glad that you have.
Yeah.
Because look where we are, and look what you're doing, and that's so wonderful. And that description of walking into a room and feeling like your face is on fire, that's spot on. Yeah. I mean that, and again, it's, even before you think about how you're going to respond in that situation, your body's already put you there with social anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I think that the kind of interweaving of that self-awareness that you're talking about with experience is, to me, is just so important that, if we think about, well, what's going on when our, feels like our faces are on fire like that? What was the perception of threat that maybe we weren't even aware of that just started that whole train moving? Somehow thinking that, people are going to be judging us, or, we're going to make a terrible mistake or something like that. And so the thing about exposure therapy is, and it sounds so terrible,
Yeah, it does.
like, why would we want to do that? Doesn't sound good. But it's that opportunity a little bit at a time to, on purpose, do the thing that you're so afraid will happen, to see, when you decide that, you're going to create that situation, that you see that it's not as bad.
Right.
Maybe it's not bad at all. And that, going from that ingrained idea of mistakes are the enemy, and, stumbling over your words are the worst thing that could happen, to see that when on purpose you do that, like, oh, that's a connection there. That's a connection that you could have with another person when that happens. Like we had tonight, known when when I was off by an hour of what Pacific time was, right? I feel like that. Are you on Pacific time?
I am, yeah.
To me, that was a connection. It's like, okay, we already have this kind of funny history. You know something about me.
Yeah, you're not great with math.
I'm not good with math.
Nor am I.
But here we are. And it all worked out, and we have something in common, and that's so. But this is why the work that you're doing is so important. That you're creating a community of people with that understanding. We could easily be a community of people that could judge a moment like that and really reinforce that idea that we are not safe.
Right.
And that's not what we're going for.
No.
And what's wonderful is that, we each can have the opportunity to create that world by how we interact with other people, which is just the wonderful thing about empathy.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect, right? It takes one person at a time, and we each have that innate capacity, which is the beautiful part of it. How much is, in thinking about like my own experiences with anxiety, and anxiety definitely being wrapped up in my identity and my lack of self esteem, and certainly my sort of childhood and being a people pleaser, and sort of coming through that. How much is it about, or how much is it? How much is it about self-love and self-acceptance and self-esteem too?
Yeah. So how much is the process of kind of freeing yourself from that anxiety a process?
So I'll just give you an anecdote, because I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to my friend Tristan, and both Tristan and I are people who have anxiety, and with that anxiety, a certain leaning on self-limiting behavior, right? And feeling like I certainly, and I'll just speak for myself, we use the example of like when someone says, "Oh, would you like it this way or would you like it that way?" And in our brains, in our minds, we're like, okay, we do have a clear favorite, but nevertheless, I find myself sometimes saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Just choose, because I don't want the moment of like potential confrontation, right? Or whatever it may be." But I've had to learn to value myself, right? And value my own voice, to actually choose, right? To make a choice, because I feel if we keep finding ourselves in situations where we aren't choosing, when we're giving that power away, it's taking away our power. It's like reinforcing the anxiety. Maybe that's, I don't know, hard to get there, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Such a great example of the question about choosing, and are we reinforcing our anxiety when we don't really make choices for ourselves? Is that
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
that what we're doing is very quickly thinking, what's the right answer?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be the thing that, okay, that I don't want that person to be upset.
Exactly.
I gotta make sure. Yeah. You see it in, I have a friend who has twins who are 3 years old. And the friend was saying, why is it that, it's a boy and a girl. Why is it that my daughter, whenever something happens, she's saying, I'm sorry. And it wasn't even her, she didn't do anything. And it's that, I think that radar that people have for some people have for making sure that the larger picture, that no one is unhappy, that no one's, maybe because of, anger or danger, explosiveness, different kinds of experiences, that we're on the lookout for those things. And sometimes, in a more, even in a more nurturing environment, a safer environment, some people, they're just born with their antenna or more attuned to, is everybody okay here?
Right.
Their sense is broader, but it can be a burden for that person, and as you're saying, it can be a way of kind of driving a wedge between you and yourself, that you just don't even know necessarily what it is that that you need. And then you can end up one day just saying, like, I'm not happy. And then, oops, how did it happen? All those, millions of decisions that you kind of didn't make because your program was about making sure everybody was happy.
Exactly. I mean, you're speaking my language. Like, that was me growing up. There was a lot of loudness and fighting, and my father was very violent, and my antenna is very tall, right? And I'm very sensitive, yep. And so I was the quiet one in the corner, sort of observing and trying to make mm-hmm. sure that nothing too bad happened, right? So I feel for those people. Like, how do we break that cycle? How are you breaking that cycle?
Yeah, so I'm going to take a second now.
Sure. Yeah.
Because these are it's just wonderful to be in this space of having hard questions like that, right? Because if I were to, let's say I had just a wonderful answer for that right away, I just don't even know that would make sense, because in a way, I am a very optimistic person, so we're going to head there. We're going there. But I also want to just say how complex this is.
It's so complex.
Right?
And that's what we said at the top.
Can we just acknowledge that?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And there's no right answer. It's
absolutely
so nuanced.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to emphasize that, because I think that one of the things that we do to ourselves is we say, well, I know what I should be doing. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
And so there's this other layer of, it keeps like the self-criticism that we're trying to get away from, or the criticism that we're trying to get away from ends up, we're kind of doing it to ourselves then, saying, why can't I be better about dealing with, criticism, or, understanding myself. So it is complicated, and it's really important to give yourself credit and room to have trouble with it, and then to find your way in moments back and forth all the time. We are, so you are, as I am as well. We are the rings of a tree. So the child is there, and also the adult is there. It's just, it's all there. And so having that awareness maybe of that moment. You had to choose something. What's the choice that you might ask? Who's answering? Kind of what part of me is answering that? And does that, do I like that answer? Does that really fit? Or do I not? Do I want to give myself another choice? So I think it's that self-understanding to know how we're built,
Right.
in a, there are many different, that I don't know if you saw the movie a number of years ago called Inside Out.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
That's so cool. Yeah. So isn't that all of us? Except that there wasn't there wasn't kind of a logical character in there, which I thought was unfortunate. It was all the emotions, but
Right.
what about the decision maker? But yeah, so if we can think about all, which part of ourselves is kind of answering the question, making the decision, and we are the executive at the top in charge of all of those emotions and time periods. And much of the time, it does not feel that we're in charge.
No.
But growth is, you were talking about, this is a journey. Life is a journey we're in. And so, there are moments where we feel like we're so not in charge. And then later on, we think, we can look back and say, God, okay, yeah, I see what I was, I see that's not how I would answer today. That whole thing of trying to second guess what people want, I'm doing that less, but you're not going to see that day to day. We're talking about, the effort that it takes over a sustained period of time with the things that are difficult, but very much worth pursuing.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. My brain keeps going back to the third grader who's thinking about college and stressed about college and anxious.
And I haven't answered that question. Okay,
No,
I'm going to do it.
I just want to establish a little context on this because it weighs on my heart. This third grader, right? And it seems like a systemic issue, right? This pressure put on kids. So yeah, my question to you is like, how does a third grader like that get to a place where they're stressed and anxious about college?
Right. And what do we do to help that third grader? Yeah. So we're gonna do the charge of both of those things. That we think about both parts of that question. So yeah, we are a culture that, look, in the middle of this pandemic that we are in, I have kids worrying about the grades that they're getting on their homework because we haven't canceled grades, even though we've canceled, so much else in kids' lives right now. They're doing school online. Why are they being graded? They can't, they were stressed going into this time. Now they're so stressed. And who are they going to go to with their stress about their grade when they see mom's worrying about, her brother who came down with a virus, their, friends, they're worrying about things too. Who's going to, what are they going to do about grades in this time? So interestingly, I mean, it seems to me this, I don't understand this known. Maybe you can help me, but
sure.
Why wouldn't that be one of the, it's free. That would immediately take pressure off of kids, teachers, parents. We haven't done it. Isn't that interesting? Even in this time,
it is weird.
We're still going to go for the evaluation and the focus on, performance. instead of learning. This is all this fall. I've been having a lot of conversations in the past, for years, but these recent conversations with students about how there is no room for learning anymore. And that, it just feels like every grade counts. And so that trickles down to the third grader. This is, what they're hearing. But if they're still being asked to, get graded for their spelling test in third grade in the middle of a pandemic, can we really blame them for worrying about this? Because our values and our priorities are pretty clearly being communicated to them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I wonder, I think that certainly like our education systems at large, there's a lot to unpack there when it comes to grading and things like that. And it's why, someone like me, I never really took to school, even though I went to college, and those things, it always felt out of place at school, for a lot of the reasons that you're talking about. But I wonder if, like, in regards to this specifically, kids being graded, in the time of coronavirus, I wonder if it's, I don't know, trying to continue some sort of sense of, consistency or something, which may add a little comfort. I don't know, but maybe that's wrong.
Well, maybe that is the thinking, and my strong suggestion after 2 weeks, years of hearing kids just way too stressed about grades, and the last couple of weeks talking to kids who are adjusting to online distance learning, is let's keep the learning, keep the structure, the curiosity, nurturing that without the pressure of grades. Because at this point, the meaning of, maybe there was a time known when grades did not immediately kind of summon all of this that we're talking about, that a third grader is thinking about this grade counts and this is what's going to happen for middle school and high school and college and job, and they connect all those dots. So maybe in another time when we weren't in this future-oriented, GPA obsessed culture that we're in, maybe another time we could have kept grades, and that would have been a comfort and a sign of structure and things are okay. It's not like that.
I think I do have a sense that it's gotten worse, because growing up, I never felt, and because maybe I was just a screw up, and I was in a lot of ways, but I never felt that pressure necessarily. Part of me wants to unpack the deeper thing here, which is it can't just be like kids stressing about grades because grades mean high school and then college. Do you have any ideas about, aside from that sort of cultural emphasis on grades, what else is going on just psychologically with kids feeling so much pressure? Where do they get it? Is it just cultural, or is there something else going on?
That's why my first thought is, wait, but what else is there? Isn't if the culture is, it is anxious, that's what's going on.
I guess if that's the contributing factor, and sorry, I interrupted, but
yeah, sure.
If that's the contributing factor and that brings them to a place of this deep anxiety, obviously that's enough and that needs to be addressed. But I just wonder if, we're talking about an issue that is systemic, right? It's cultural, but it's also at the education level. But maybe let's look at it from a different perspective and think about okay, what can parents do, right, to talk about their kids, about their anxiety, and how can they help? Like, how can they be better role models for their kids to give them the sense of like, hey, grades aren't that big of a deal. Like, just have a curiosity and understanding. But obviously kids, and I know this, of course, because I was a kid, you know, you lack context a lot of times, and you get that with experience when you get a little older. But I just like it breaks my heart to feel like there's this one filter, and it's this culture pressure, and and we have to change the system, right? Like there has to be other little spots to get in.
Well, let me absolutely. Well, so yes, part two.
Yes, part two.
Absolutely. So what I always say to families is, the culture is, it's running down that track that it's running down, whatever that is. But around your kitchen table, you decide what you talk about. You decide what messages you're sending kids. And of course, it's not that there's a reality of how that system works that's important for kids to understand, but that's not the only game in town. Parents can still really help their kids to feel empowered to learn and, decide how they want to spend their time. And yes, find their ways of persevering through things that are difficult. Along with this pressure, not surprisingly, we have the anxiety rate going up in kids, the depression rate, just this sense of things are going to be too hard, and we can't. Just a lot of frustration that kids are experiencing as well, because there is this sense that the process, we're just not kind of talking about the process of whether that's the process of learning or just emotional processes of how we respond to things. That, back to the two systems, when things are hard, whether it's, in a pandemic or sitting in front of a math problem that you don't understand right away, there's a process within us that, again, immediately is going to make us feel like we got to get out of there. And, on the outside, what that looks like is kids may get really upset, or they get angry, or they push the paper away and say, this is stupid, or I'm stupid. And so in that moment is the opportunity to help kids to see that what they're experiencing at first makes a lot of sense. This is hard.
Yeah.
This is hard. And it's not, it's hard to do things that don't come easily, but it's not wrong that it feels hard. It's not wrong that it feels frustrating, but that's like chapter 1. Chapter 2, you're rolling up your sleeves and you're trying. And, chapter 3, you figure it out. Or chapter 4, you figure it out. And so a lot of times what happens is when kids are struggling at chapter 1, parents are saying, okay, look, I'll just show you how to do this, or don't get so upset. And there's a lot of, kind of alienation that can happen there, or just missing the opportunity for kids to see that this process, that what's happening within them,
I see,
is normal.
Yeah.
And to hang in with that.
Yeah.
And they will then get to the other side of that.
Yeah.
If we feel like that's wrong known, then whether it's, a little kid building blocks and the tower's falling down, they get upset and they think then that, they can't do it. That is the, schema can you carry through your life, unless someone says, gosh, I get so frustrated too when I can't do something right away. I know that feeling. That you're then in this shared experience. Then you say, I know, and sometimes I just want to walk away when that happens. Kids look at you like, wow, okay, I'm actually, you're speaking what's happening to me.
Right.
Yeah, I do want to walk away right now. And then, maybe, and sometimes I do walk away. And then other times, I know I'm going to kind of hang in, and I'm going to keep working at it, and it gets better. It's just, this is what's happening right now.
Right. Yeah, I want to reiterate what you said, because it's very important. And my dog's here trying to get under my feet. Is this recognition of what's going on? It's being aware of how you're feeling in the moment, and recognizing that however you're feeling is okay and valid response to a challenge, something uncomfortable, whatever it may be. And that needs to be step one always. And with later steps, we figure out, okay, how do we respond to this? What feels right in responding to this? But when, and I've seen this a lot in my life, when someone is there, like a parent who has the opportunity to, educate them on that process, right? But chooses not to, because and again, I'm not a parent, so I fully understand that this may be very difficult, but there's an opportunity to educate, and with it comes some discomfort, but also with it comes this great moment of empathy. And when we bypass that moment of education, that moment of empathy, we're just teaching people to not deal with their feelings,
right.
Not look at their feelings.
Right. And also in this context of learning to stay away from things that are hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And and a lot of things are hard at first. So I'm I got to give something practical known, because I got to do it.
Please.
So my big thing is that I want to help people we were talking earlier about changing your relationship with, the feelings that you have. And part of that is by editing in phrases that help those feelings to kind of have a more accuracy to them. Feelings feel like facts. So just this afternoon, I was working with a middle schooler who, really has that mindset that if something's hard, and very bright, young person, but something's hard, they just, they want to give up. They start thinking that they're stupid, the whole thing. And that process just repeats itself. And I was saying, what if you edit in the phrase right now to your self-talk? So they say, this is so frustrating. I said, right now, I can't do this. So actually two things to edit in to make it a feeling. I feel like I can't do this right now, instead of just, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So when we're in threat mode, when we perceive, that something is the enemy to us, and again, it could be so many things, including something like a math problem, we're going to make statements that sound so definitive, this is with such authority, I can't do this. So I encourage people to edit in things like, I am having that I can't do this feeling right now, because that's a feely human feeling, right? like, hey, okay, when I'm having that, I can't do this, I feel like I can't do this feeling. What do I do? Okay, I know, like, this is a feeling, or maybe I need help, or I'm tired. Just, it changes the dynamic of that moment so much. So yeah, I actually had pencils made to help people to with a catchphrase of, getting worry wise by editing their anxiety. And that's, if there is a takeaway, I mean, I just have so enjoying this conversation that we're kind of going where it takes us. But I hope that folks have a just a practical takeaway that is, to listen to how you're narrating a situation, and see if you can edit in those words like, I'm feeling that, or, right now, so that the narrative is really accurate of what's going on.
I love that so much. It's so good. And, listeners, like, this isn't just for third graders. This is for all of us.
This is,
those are great tools. And it's such a good reminder that feelings aren't facts. Feelings are, guideposts. We should look at them, and they're also temporary. They're in the moment, what we're having now. And, we've probably been there before. So, those are great tools. I love that.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah. And I think that's a way, when we are empathizing with people, that we can reflect back what they're saying with slight suggestions about making it, sort of slight reminders in a very respectful way of the temporariness of what they're feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, saying, I know it feels so frustrating right now, or it's so upsetting right now, or it's just, that is the feeling that you're having right now, is so intensely that it just, and then they say, like, no, it's not right now. This is what it is. And you say, I hear that. That just, what I'm saying doesn't even reflect, it doesn't even kind of capture what you're feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. How much of anxiety is about what's going to happen in the future? And then, the sort of follow-up to that is, like, how much is it about trying to stay present?
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, I think all of anxiety is about, but it is both, known, because the questions, the what ifs, it's all about the future. One of the things that I have a little measuring tape on my keychain, little mini measuring tape, and what I use it as a visual aid, that I say to people, okay, when the measuring tape is closed, this is where you are in the present. Stretch the tape out. This is what anxiety wants you to do, is think about what's going to happen with this, all these things in the future. And what we need to do is press the button on the measuring tape and come back to the present, which is actually where we can do something. So, I think that the challenge is that it's so hard to be in the present when we're in an anxious state, because, again, our nervous system is making us ready to run. But it's an absolutely worthy project to keep trying to bring ourselves back. And I want to suggest something, especially in these times, that a lot of people suggest mindfulness and meditation to reconnect with yourself, and all of that's great. And for some people, that's just really hard to access. And so there are other ways to come back to the present, which are a little different. It may be that what helps you to this, I'll just speak for myself. One of the things that really helps me to come back to the present is to move, not to stay still,
Yeah.
not to sitting still like a frog or like anything else.
Sure.
That's wonderful at times. And there are times when I can't do that. But if I tell my patients this, and I'm going to embarrass myself with a larger audience, doing jumping. Yeah, here we go. Drum roll, please. Doing jumping jacks or just running in place. It's like the energy that was just getting me to want to just go. I kind of am able to discharge that in a very short period of time by just acknowledging that that's the energy that I have going in my body, rather than trying to kind of, arc it back to the other program. It's like, okay, let me just do something with this energy. And then I can, oh gosh, I feel so much better. Then I can think clearly.
Yeah, I relate to that. When you're feeling that, like that sort of pull to move, like what are you feeling in your body? Because the context of that question is the fact, and maybe it is not a fact, you tell me, it seems like we hold anxiety in our physical bodies and it manifests in physical ways.
Absolutely. Because and really, anxiety, we've been talking a little bit about narratives, but anxiety is more the narrative of what's happening when our fight or flight system gets triggered in, usually situations where it's not needed. It's not helpful. It's getting in the way. And so it is so physical because the brain can't distinguish immediately between an uncomfortable social situation, potentially, and, a tiger walking by. We're going to have the same kind of physical reaction in both situations. And so, we can use, when it is the social situation rather than the tiger, we can talk to ourselves. We can say, like, anxiety is just going into overdrive right now. Like, those people are the enemy, but they're just people like me, all the things that we can say to ourselves. But still, the way we're built, we have a quick start for that physical, like electricity in your body kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. But we have a slow fade, because if the tiger's around the corner, we got to be ready. So just the way we're built, none of these things are instantly going to shut down that fight or flight, but it'll help kind of the pivot point to slow that down when we can do things that help us physically, or, kind of edit our first take on what's happening in a situation. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's, it's a great thing that we have fight or flight, obviously. And it's also why why we all have work to do.
Right. I mean, and the way I like to look at it, and I was just kind of thinking about it as you were talking, is, the fight or flight thing is this, so anxiety in a way, like, and this is just my layman, silly person, not an educator at all, perspective. It's this, it's grounded in evolution, right? It's this evolutionary piece of the human condition, right? And it serves a purpose, and it had served a purpose maybe even better millennia ago, right? But we're in 2020, we're in modern times, and so as humans who we've grown, our brains have grown, our social complexities have grown, our relationship with the world has become so much more complex. We have to work at making our base biological responses more complex too by recognizing, by doing what we're talking about, by looking at it, by being curious about it, by exploring situations again and again to come up with better responses.
Right. And doing all of that as patiently as we can with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, I mean, you absolutely recognize patterns sooner as you get older, right?
Right.
That's a wonderful thing. And sometimes that doesn't help. Sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And you're going to get set off by things, and you will meet your match with certain things, and that just happens. That can happen to the best of us. Whatever that saying means, I don't know. Now that it's come out of my mouth, but that can happen to all of us. And so just that patience of understanding that, we're in a process. We are a process, and all of this is process.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, I know it's sort of oversimplifying, but it's also true, right?
Right. So tell me, so for the people, you talked about some tools, moving for yourself and the edits, you mentioned earlier, but could you give some other sort of anxiety relieving sort of practices for people, especially now, sort of dealing with this thing that, I mean, coronavirus, COVID-19, like for people who are feeling very anxious about a thing that, again, we talked about this at the top, have never experienced before. Like, do you have any other sort of anxiety relief tools that can help the listeners?
Absolutely. So a few things. Fact checking is something that that's kind of a laden term right now, but let's use it for good. And let's just, So what I say to people, and I use this myself, again, you're tuning into your own self-talk. How are you narrating a situation? Make sure that how you're editing is to make the version of your story to yourself, to make it accurate. So just remembering that the nature of our thinking is not going to be accurate in those moments where we feel stressed. It's going to be, amplifying and exaggerated and catastrophizing. And so we need to help ourselves to fact check our fears, to make sure that what we're saying to ourselves is actually what is true.
Right.
And that's huge. But in addition to that, some very practical things, because worry, in these times, or we don't even have to have a pandemic to have so many people have anxiety, right?
Yeah.
We could have had this show, and we did plan it before this. So
right.
just to be clear, this is, we're kind of layering on the reasons for needing these skills, is to compartmentalize your time that you're going to focus on your worries. So, obviously we can't just go in there and turn a switch and turn off our thinking, but what we can do is choose what we pay attention to and sort of cultivate and respond to, that's going through our mind. So, what you can do, and I do this myself, is that I establish a couple times a day or a few times a day where I am going to tune into what my worries are, what my anxiety is telling me, and focus on that and do my fact checking. But it becomes, really difficult to function when you're worrying all day. So I call it just, it's called worry time, but you make your worry kind of wait for you. So if let's say that, you are going to have a worry time at noon, then in the morning when worries start to come to you, you say, okay, I'll be with you at noon. It's not 100% perfect, but it's called stimulus control. There's, behavioral, empirical support for this, but really the way I explain it to folks is, if you had a little kid who wanted to have candy and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you'd say, like, it's not candy time right now. But we'll have that candy time later. So you're kind of saying you're not saying, no, stop worrying. Nothing could be less effective than that, right? It does nothing but make us feel more stressed when we tell ourselves to stop something that we're doing. So rather than saying stop, we're making an appointment for later.
I love that. That's
and
great.
You can do that, a few times a day. That's helpful. And also how much we consume information and news, we can also put that on a schedule, because there's 24/7 news doesn't mean that there's something essential that we hear all of that time. And so deciding when we're going, people have been turning off news alerts is one thing, just because that's then not on your schedule. And very, very little right now is going to change that quickly that we couldn't wait 4 or 6 hours before we knew it. It's just not like that. Right.
Right.
We can wait, or it can wait. And so all of these things are going to help us have more of a, sense of control and more of an ability to focus. Because if throughout the morning pings of, news items are coming in, that fight or flight is going to be, charged up each time. How do you sit and write a blog post?
Yeah.
Or think through a podcast, or pay your bills, or figure out how to pay your bills online, because now that's what we all have to do, So just realizing what nervous systems we have, and what, giving ourselves breaks, because that's really, really important. That's really important to do.
Yeah.
One suggestion about sleep, because that's, and you can use this throughout the day, but at nighttime too, is to do your fact checking. Sometimes these times we just get into bed, and that's the first time when, everything can rush in and, sneak up and jump us.
Yeah. Let's go read a bunch of tweets right before bed.
It's all been at bay until then. And so that's not helpful. So let me just say, bookending your day with something that you design. So, maybe you have a piece of music that you're going to listen to, or a poem at the beginning of the day, and the end of the day, something else that is your choice. We design our lives. It doesn't feel like we do. And it really doesn't in these times. Because again, we're just like, where's the fire? Where do we need to run? But we do design our lives. And so, whether it's, some creative kind of thing that you do, or looking at pictures that make you feel good, use that power. Decide how you want to, start and end your day. And it's so great. And be reasonable. I have these patterns, but I miss them sometimes. And I am, looking at my phone at night instead of, singing or whatever. That's very relaxing to me. But if half the time you do that, half the time it's going better for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you see how much better it can be, right. Yeah. I love that.
And one more practical thing. I have an exercise I call the 4 doors, and you can use this in the daytime after you've done your worry time kind of fact checking, and you really, you need your mind to go somewhere else, helps to have another place for your mind to go. And you can also use this at nighttime, that you either draw or you picture 4 doors, just rectangles with a doorknob. And on each door, you name a category of something, a topic that you like to think about, that you enjoy thinking about. And you let yourself go through that other door, beautiful gardens that you kind of memorize what they look like and smell like. Or I always put cupcakes on one of my doors. I love, ornately decorated cupcakes. I think it's like a world on a small piece of cake, which is also so good. But, so find your 4 doors, and you can exchange them with other people. If you run out of ideas, this is something you can do, with friends, that you say like, okay, I'm out of ideas. What do you have on your doors? Okay, I'll do the cupcake thing. Okay. And it's just, rather than saying no to your mind, you're giving your mind somewhere else to go.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love that.
Tell me your doors, and in a couple of months, Known, and we'll compare compare notes.
To clarify, the idea is that I'm looking at 4 doors, and on each of those doors is just something of my own making in my head, my imagination.
That is pleasant for you. So it could be, vacations that you would like to take or that you've taken, or, meals that you like to cook. I say to kids, a celebrity that you would have your dream day with. What would you do? Who would it be? And what would you do? My husband loves nature, and his doors, one of them's rocks, one of them's shells, one of them's moss, and it's just, he likes thinking about those things.
Yeah.
And it just, having somewhere else to go, that also reduces anxiety, because then you have an answer to that question. What do I do now? You go through another door.
Right. Yeah, no, I have a very active imagination, so I do think I like vacillate between a lot of doors all the time, which, in the context of you talking to me about this anxiety relieving tool makes me proud of myself.
Yes, you had it.
Yes, I've got this.
You live it.
I've got this muscle. Yeah.
And it's true, because, I guess the kind of meta message is about flexibility. That just because we start down this path of worry or, straining, stress, that we don't have to stay on that path. There are other places that we can go. It is a muscle, and there are times of when we're so overwhelmed and it's hard to use it. But a lot of the times we use it, and as we use it, it gets stronger, and it takes less effort to kind of go with those kinds of ideas, because, neuroplasticity, your mind's already kind of heading that way, which is great.
Yeah. And I would just say for the listeners, you have permission to go there. Create your doors, because right now it feels overwhelming, and it feels sad and heartbreaking, and people losing jobs, and people in hospitals working, all night and days at a time with one, mask on their face. And it's devastating. And we can still make an impact. And that's important, obviously, to think about that and to put empathy out into the world and give back in ways we can. But we can't do that all the time. We just can't. And we need to have those. We need to have the doors to help us.
There's one other idea that I thought of when you were talking about that, Known, is another exercise that I call the possibility panel. And it's kind of like choosing your ideal board of directors for the, experience of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that you think of 4 people, and they could be fictional characters, people who have died, whatever, people who are alive, and you choose 4 people who you are consulting in your mind for perspective when you are losing perspective.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I love that.
And I yesterday, I was losing perspective a little bit. It's, we've got suddenly 5 people in our house, and we were 2 for, for a while there.
Yeah.
And we're ordering groceries, and we're, it's just, everyone's vying for bandwidth to do the things they need to do. And I mean, we're cooperative, but, it's hard. And I was like, okay, I want to think of somebody who is older, who's lived through hard things. I want to draw on that perspective. What are they saying to me? And it's still you, but it's a great vehicle to get around the place that you're stuck and connect with, a vector that moves you.
Yeah. Yeah, and because we often put limitations on ourselves based on like how we perceive ourselves as like, this is who I am, right? And this is my identity, and I don't do those types of things, or I don't think in these ways. And what a great exercise to get out of that mindset. The first person that came to my mind, Tamar, is who would be on my board of directors, is Samwise Gamgee. From the Lord of the Rings books. Yeah.
Tell me.
Did you ever read those books?
I did not. Okay. I'm in a family of big fans of those books, and I confess I have not.
No, it's okay.
But this might be an opening. Can you just tell me why Sam Wise?
Yes.
I don't even know.
Samwise Gamgee. Yeah. So
how did that jump into your mind?
He jumped into my mind because he is someone who has a huge heart and is also just so sweet and gentle and loving and loyal, and also so courageous and brave, and was able throughout those stories to take on so much, but also still offer up so much beauty and humanity. And I think I thought of him because, at times I feel I put I'm very hard on myself. And Samwise was someone who was always so kind to both himself and the people around him. And he just seemed like a character that was so self-accepting. So he would definitely be on my board for sure.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that so we can feel so trapped or scrunched in a moment, so limited, and then you think of that character and there's all this space that gets created. Mm-hmm. It's just we just have to know that that's a possibility for us to do. So I suggest just take listeners, take a sticky note, think of 4 people. You can change it, put it on your bedside table or your laptop, and someone will. Well, not many people will see it.
Well,
these days, but
so take that. What Tamar, I'm talking to you now, listeners. Take what Tamar said and post about it on Instagram, and I'll reshare it
so
because
great.
I want to see your board of directors. Like, I would love to see them, and I'll try to think of mine in addition to Samwise, and maybe we can make a fun activity online about this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it could be fun.
I love that, because the thing is, it's so fascinating to this. Gosh, isn't that just a wonderful way to learn something about someone?
100%.
Who are
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
who's on their board of directors and their dream. Yeah. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So, Tamar, as we start to wrap up here, can you tell the listeners just about what's going on with you and the work you're doing now? I know you have a few books out. Like, what are you doing? Speaking gigs of, I mean, obviously, in the time of coronavirus, maybe not so much of that, but like, what's going on in your career right now?
Yeah. So um, one of the wonderful things that happened just in the nick of time, known is that my website, tamarchansky.com, which had a technical glitch. So it was kind of duct taped together for a certain amount of time, apparently, in code. And so I had to rebuild the site, and it launched in February. So just before it would have been difficult to kind of put pieces together given my focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very excited about my website because I have written a lot of blogs about just about any kind of anxiety that you can think of. And if I haven't thought of it, let me know. And so I'm appreciating in this time when I've got to kind of pace myself with my energy, that I have a resource for people. I'm still blogging about, coping with this time and things to do, but there's a lot in the kind of back catalog there that now is much easier for people to search. So I hope that folks will do that on tamarchansky.com. And I just started on Instagram. So I am finding my way with that at Tamar Chansky, PhD. And yeah, so my writing, I just had a second edition of a book come out. I have four books. Two of them are in second editions, but so Freeing Your Child from Anxiety and Freeing Yourself from Anxiety and Freeing Your Child from Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And then the one that just came out in January in a second edition is Freeing Your Child from Negative Thinking. And it's really about how do you at your kitchen table talk about flexibility and resilience and, kind of how you respond to negative thinking without being negative yourself. I have so many other projects that I have to right now kind of say that's on hold, because the most important use of my time, I think, besides just keeping my family unit running with food and shelter and stuff like that, which are nothing to take for granted right now, is blogging and really helping folks to have tools to get through every day. So that's the scope. And it's, like this, I so appreciate this opportunity to talk to you today.
Yeah. Well, listeners, make sure to go check out her website, and parents listening, buy her books, and follow her on Instagram. All of those things will be linked in the show notes. Tamar, before we wrap up, we do always talk about empathy heroes at the end of the show. So these are people in our lives who are just great empathetic humans, and could be even characters from books or, people from the past. I'm going to name my empathy hero first to give you a moment to think on yours. My empathy hero this week it really just happened yesterday. And my dear friends, Jen and Dennis. So Dennis is a classically trained pianist, and so amazing. He's just amazing at it. And I love the piano, and I especially love the musical version of Les Miserables. And I love the book too, by Victor Hugo. But the musical, like original 1987 Broadway musical Les Mis is just something I grew up with and I love, and it just speaks to my heart. And so Dennis has been playing tunes on Instagram, and I'll make sure to link his profile in the show notes, everyone. I don't know it offhand, but I made a request to play One Day More, and he released it yesterday. He had spent the whole week learning how to play it, and then he played it. It's a 3-minute video. I reshared it on Feely Humans Instagram, and at the end of it, Jen sort of surprises all of us with, she's like wearing this, what looks like, it's like a old Renaissance outfit, she told us later, but it looks like, something that would be at that time in France. And she's like waving this flag around, and it's very like reminiscent of the play. And it just made my day, and it made me so happy. And I watched it 4 or 5 times, and it's such a beautiful piece of music, and it just filled my heart. So Jen and Dennis are my empathy heroes this week.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that this is very practical, but the practical is so poignant right now, that my empathy heroes are 2 people who left paper towels at our back door and some masks, because I had put on Facebook that we didn't have that for things that we needed and we couldn't find. I know this may sound, well, this is real.
No, that's amazing. I think that's amazing.
Those people, it really brought tears to my eyes, because, what is empathy? It's understanding or wanting to understand. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we don't understand, but it's wanting to understand. But I feel like with these guardian angels, that they understood that these were things that we needed to keep our system running.
Yeah.
And there they were. And it was just, can't take anything for granted. So those people really understood that this was much needed, and they went out of their way, just like your friend. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
So in the most kind of homey example that there can be of paper towels, but you feel heard, you feel safe, someone's understanding and taking care of you, and that meant so much to me this week.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful example of empathy, and I'm happy you have those guardian angels. That's great.
And the paper towels, yes.
And the paper towels and the masks, yes.
Right. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Tamar, thank you so much for being on You Me Empathy.
Thank you so much for creating this space for these kinds of conversations to happen. It's just so my pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And I appreciate you. And listeners, make sure to go check out all of Tamar's amazing writing at tamarchansky.com. And again, those are all linked in the show notes. And as I always say, listeners, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring, pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You, Me, Empathy.